In this episode of Financial Literacy for Beginners, we're going to talk about liabilities that you may think are assets. Cue the intro. So I know this is one of those topics that, a lot of people may be a little in the dark about because some people may not know what assets are and what liabilities are in their life. So we're going to break that down really quickly so you can have that basic understanding. Liabilities are things that cost you money, and assets are things that make you money. That is the very fundamental basic definition of those things. So as we're talking about this, I want you to keep those things in mind. One of the first things I want to talk about that is kind of on the list of things that we may consider as an asset, but may be a liability for a lot of people, is your college education. And I know this may be a little touchy-feely, so I'm going to preface this by saying I have a college degree and I went to college, and I value, the college experience, and I value having a good education from any institution, because I think education is very important. But how college degrees become liabilities is under the current way we achieve them. College is expensive. Higher education can be very, very expensive. And under the current model, a lot of times, oftentimes, too much times, many people come out of college with school loan debt and all of those things without the career or the money-making, job that they wanted to pay for that. And even if they do have, that right job or whatever, from a percentage level, the amount of money it costs to get that education doesn't immediately add up to the amount of money they're making. So that's when your education definitely becomes a liability. And I'm not saying that, education remains a liability in your life, because you definitely can benefit from that education and reach a point where it benefits you in a way where it exceeds your income, exceeds the amount of money you outlaid for that particular income. And in most cases, people are able to do that at some point. But just keep in mind, the faster you pay off the cost of that education, the faster it becomes an asset. The next thing that a lot of people consider an asset, which turns out to be one of the biggest liabilities, is your car. And I know a lot of people are going to hate to hear this, but your car is a huge liability, or can be a huge liability, depending on how you paid for that car and how you're paying for that car, what kind of car you have, if it's a classic car, or if it's a car that is increasing in value, or if it's losing value, which most cars, they lose value. The moment you drive them off the lot, they start losing value. So it becomes a liability for those reasons, and they cost money. Cars cost money to maintain, they cost money to drive. They are a huge expense if you're not careful. Sometimes one of the smartest things you can do is get into a car that you can work on yourself and pay for outright, so that you're not in a situation where you're paying for a car for a long period of time as a bill. You want to eliminate as many bills in your life as possible, because things that have reoccurring bills are really one of the main things that can be put on the liability list, because it's money that's constantly coming out of your budget every month, every week, or what have you. So definitely think about that in terms of when you're buying a car or when you're investing in an automobile. What do you really need that automobile for? What is it going to, how is it going to benefit your situation? Really think about the investment that you're making. And am I just buying this car because I want to look good in it? Am I buying a kind of car that is just for me to impress other people? Or am I buying an automobile that I'm going to use, say, for working or transporting me to these particular client meetings, and all of those things? So really weigh out the income that the car can bring in versus how much money it's taking out of your budget with all of those other expenses. Now, one other more common thing that a lot of people probably do recognize as a liability is, your consumer credit cards. We spend so much money with credit card companies over the years of having credit cards that it's just crazy how much of a liability it becomes in our lives. Yes, we can get that immediate gratification of having things or being able to purchase things or getting out of, situations. Sometimes, there are emergency situations where, you use your credit card for, but the amount of money we have to pay in the long term for those things is just astronomically out of proportion to how much money it is saving us. So it's really not wise to use credit cards in that way and really have a clear head about if it is an asset or a liability in your life. Because if you're not careful, you can get into a situation where it can become one of the biggest liabilities in your life, because it can continue to suck money out of your situation for years and years if you're not careful. Now, this last thing that I do want to talk about that is typically thought of as an asset, but turns out to be a liability in a lot of different instances, is your home. And I know a lot of people probably don't want to hear this because, people think of home ownership as one of the biggest assets in their lives. And it definitely can be. Homes can be a great asset if used properly. But for the most part, homes are liabilities because they take more money out of your budget than they generate, specifically if you are living in that home and it's not a source of income. Homes cost money. You have to pay a down payment for them. If you're in a mortgage, you're paying that mortgage every month. A home is not an asset in that way because it's not generating income. Now, on the flip side, if you were using your homes, if you were getting into homes just to rent them out, and you are renting out rooms or doing other things that bring in revenue from your home, then it becomes an asset. But keep in mind, it only becomes an asset when you are making more off of the home than you're paying out to keep it. And that's the whole thing about assets. That's the thing that I want you to understand. If you are making more than you're losing with whatever it is, then that becomes an asset and not a liability. I hope this has been extremely helpful for someone. And until we talk again, I wish you health, wealth, and freedom. Hold up. If this is your first time to the channel, definitely drop this video a like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We really would like to see you back here on some more videos, joining in the conversation, and definitely leave a comment down in the comment box below.